Hello, my name is Charles Demler, and I'm doing my first interview today. So excuse me if I don't do things quite right. But I'll try to get better, and I'll do the best I can. Anyhow, in a few minutes, I'll tell you exactly what you need to do to get rid of the problem of global warming. Along with that, we'll first tell you about Natalia and the latest findings from up north in the Arctic, by the East Siberian Arctic Shelf. Yes, it's a place that has 600 gigatons estimated of free methane. Anyhow, there's a woman named Natalia. She is a scientist who studies up in the Arctic, and she's been studying this quite nominally. Back in like 2013 was her famous expedition that talked about how there's a methane monster. Anyhow, that methane monster is all of the methane that's underneath the permafrost that's under the East Siberian Arctic Shelf. And in that permafrost, when that stuff starts to melt, there'll be a lot of methane coming up, and then there's a lot of frozen methane under that too, and below that is the 600 gigatons of free methane. Anyhow, there's about 2,400 gigatons total, but that's just an estimate, and that is done by ice core drilling and using echo sounding, a radar type of thing that they use to find the free methane. Anyhow, it has just been notified by Natalia that that layer of permafrost underneath the East Siberian Arctic Shelf has melted, and that's going to lead way to some other methane coming up. And apparently, there's no way to stop it. It has to do with the heat being generated by all the microbes down there that are eating away at the other methane and other stuff in the permafrost, and that keeps it going. And it really doesn't stop till it gets to the shelf where, where the land comes up. Or if you're able to refreeze the Arctic. So now we have to refreeze the Arctic. That's going to be hard. But anyhow, that's what we have to do. And it's all because we didn't sit there and listen to the scientists. A site with scientists who study mostly the Arctic in the Arctic, and they've stated two geoengineering methods that needed to be done but weren't done. One was cloud brightening that works on a local level but would have helped cool the Arctic also. And there's also thickening the Arctic ice cap. And that would be done just like the ice road truckers do. You know, in that show, Ice Road Truckers? Well, they put down water over the ice when it's below freezing, and that water then freezes and then thickens the ice, and then they're able to drive 18-wheelers over it. Well, you just had to do that on a massive scale, but they were ignored. Anyhow, that's a site that I would recommend looking at. These people have done their press conferences and other deal. They label all the scientific evidence of things, talk about how the Arctic is rapidly heading for a meltdown, how the land and subsea permafrost thaws even faster and faster, and it's doing that. It's doing that really faster and faster. That Arctic permafrost that was underneath the East Siberian Arctic Shelf wasn't coming up at all like 20 years ago. Definitely not 40 years ago. And now it's on par with all the other methane coming up in the rest of the ocean. It's just an enormous amount in such little time, and it's going to keep going and going. And that's not to mention the stuff like the methane blast that we had off this coast of Greenland that was over half the size of Oregon. That happened on May 8th. And there was little news coverage of it. But yes, imagine that much methane coming up. And what happens is the Earth's crust, they move a little bit. and that's what caused the earthquake. But in that movement, that also disturbed, if there is any coverage of permafrost blocking any free methane from coming up to the surface, that movement of crust, it disrupted that blockage, or there was no blockage at all, and the free methane just came up from underneath the crust, which there is a process that forms free methane underneath the crust. Anyhow, that thing came up, and it left a plume over half the size of Oregon. Imagine that coming up. Oh, that would be such a disaster. Anyhow, that's the kind of stuff we're dealing with, kind of. Most of the methane is, though, going to come up slowly, I guess. There's a lot of methane coming up in the permafrost and everything. But anyhow, these people at the Arctic Methane Emergency Group, they informed the world about their two geoengineering methods back in 2013, 2014. Then they came up with 2 additional methods to thicken the Arctic ice cap. The cloud brightening thing that they were doing was using a ship, and that would actually increase the brightness at the top of the clouds so that less of the light would be going through the clouds and hitting the Arctic. Anyhow, on with this. Anyhow, they were ignored. Now they make another plea to the governments. They just announced it at the G20. They made a plea, and of course, I don't think anybody's really listening. They say that it's already serious. Reducing CO2 emissions has limited immediate effect. Limiting anthropologic or whatever global warming to 2 degrees requires intervention. Removing excess CO2 from the atmosphere is necessary, and that is done by planting trees and other fibrous plants and planting seaweed. So far we're destroying forests, and we're just drop net fishing like crazy, destroying life in the sea, destroying all the trees, and then we got the global warming that's causing the heat waves, that's causing the forests to burn. But really, most forests burn anyhow, but we're getting burning down in Greenland and stuff. It's just crazy. Anyhow, they made a plea to the G20, and looks like they're getting some attention. Hopefully, things will go better. Next link is about the Natalia and her, what's going on with the Arctic. And basically she says, you know, the champagne bottle's open, it's not going to stop. Where do we go from here? Who knows? Basically, I loved when I heard her say that what we see here, we just do not like. We really do not like. Anyhow, there's another article about her interview about what's going on with the Arctic sea ice, and how if just a fraction enough of this methane comes out, it's enough to alter the climate on a drastic level. Of course, in the earlier article, the Dragon Watch on rainforest.com, it goes on over about how the methane, if you have a 50 gigaton release, how that's going to turn out to be 50 degrees Celsius increase in temperature during the hottest times at the hottest places. Like Vegas will get to like 200 degrees. Of course, that's just what he estimated in the temperature, but the fact that he came up with that estimate at all is very disturbing. And the fact that other scientists have some problems with some of his figuring. They don't have a problem with, they have a problem with some of his curves, in that they don't think it should be high or that high, but the fact that, you know, the figures are showing that it's going to be astronomically high is just not good at all. Anyhow, here's for the exciting part, for the good part. Um, okay, seaweed. The next thing I got there is about seaweed, on how could be used not only to feed cows, and some of them are claiming 80%, 100% methane reduction rate using cow feed, using seaweed as a cow feed. And there's some mixes that are 20%, some are 80%. Um, but anyhow, that'd be a great source of feed for, cows, the seaweed. Plus, it also makes a great version of corn ethanol. Corn ethanol, I really hate because it basically costs, takes as much fuel to make as it produces, plus it clogs up your engine. I just, now the world's getting into corn ethanol. It's just horrible, Use it for food, and then you don't need the GMOs to produce a food that you're able to soak with Roundup. Oh well, anyhow. Another thing that they're doing with the seaweed is they're producing a fuel. And if done on a mass level, this seaweed for both used as food and fuel, plus the ocean life will feed off of it. It's great for the ocean. It's great to lower the acidity level of the ocean, which is very, very necessary to do. It's just a great source. Anyhow, I'm 100% behind seaweed, and please watch the video. And next, let's talk about foolish people doing foolish things. And my solution number 3. This is something else. I can't believe that people did not think of this. I don't know why people can't put 2 and 2 together. I mean, after it hit me, it just, I couldn't believe it myself. I was like irritated that I didn't think of it either. Anyhow, this Japanese company, I'll just give you the solution first. Basically, do as much solar as possible. Mass solar, just, also dams and wave, and also geothermal. Do all these things as much as possible, and also with the excess energy coming from coal plants. You don't know how much energy they just waste off, they just let go away because they have no use for it, but they're producing that much energy anyhow, so they can't really just save it. Anyhow, if you take all that energy and you beam it out into space, okay, what does that do? Okay? The basic thing from global warming is you've got rays coming from the sun, and they hit the earth. Now that is energy, basically. Now with solar panels, you soak up that energy. Now that energy is either going to come out as heat or some other form of energy. Now if you take that energy and you beam it out in space with either lasers or microwaves, that is lowering the energy content of the Earth and therefore lowering the temperature. Now, right now, if we start it right now, it's going to have a great effect with just the coal-fired generators. But in the future, I really think that could do it. But that would take like massive effort to put that much solar to have that much effect. I don't know how much. I'm getting no help with things I'm doing, but, whatever. Anyhow, that's basically it, though. Just take the energy, shoot it out into space with laser or microwave. It should lower the temperature of the planet, except for the fact that right now the methane mountains cap has been released, and if we get a lot of methane in the atmosphere, it's going to screw things up and complicate things up a great deal. Anyhow, that's my complaining for right now, and let's get on with it. The next couple things are just neat reads. And last thing I want to talk to you about is the pipeline, or one of that's coming out of the tundra up in the Arctic, in the permafrost. Um, Now, these places, they have pipelines that the Energy Corporation is moving oil through. In fact, all of the oil that's moving from Russia to Europe is moving through a pipeline that's going over this tundra. And this tundra has those pangos in it that the natives over there saw, the reindeer farmers. Oh, that would be a nice life. Anyhow, these reindeer farmers, they noticed this hill one day, and that hill just kept growing, and then one day it exploded. And from like, I don't know, like 100 miles away, they looked up in the sky and they saw this, it was this bright light. And that was coming from the methane being released from that spot where that hill was, what they saw. And that same type of pango, that same type of hill that's going on, is forming underneath the pipeline that's supplying all the oil to Europe. Just crazy. And I'm betting you they do not fix it until after there's an accident. Yes, that pipeline, I guess, is going near several of those pangos, if it's not going over several of them. I know it's going over one, apparently, in the article, if not more. So who knows what's going to happen. It's just a roll of the dice, folks. But anyhow, that's something pretty weird. And also the Greenland now is burning too. It's just amazing. All the forests are just burning. The temperature up in Greenland is up, and it's just crazy. Anyhow, thank you, and next week we'll be going over my other project, my solution number 2, which was the world's largest floating pile of crap, all extreme temperatures and weather all over the world, giving the world starving the option of eat crap or die, powered by nature. Really, it's eat the seaweed or use the seaweed as a feed additive for livestock. And we'll be providing that to anybody that's starving, hopefully, and end starvation. And it dictates the movement of a hurricane. Anyhow, that's my stuff. ClimateSolutions.weebly.com. This is Charles Demler signing off, and have a wonderful day.